way you talk to yourself about your life is going to be more impactful than what you actually go through. Think about that. The way that you're talking to yourself about your life, about the people you're living your life with, about the job you have, about the things you're doing every day, the way that you talk to yourself about your life is going to be more impactful than what you actually go through. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to give you an example. How often do you wake up and think, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to get up right now? How often do you think about, oh man, I don't want to go to work. I hate my job. I hate my boss. Man, I don't want to go to the DMV later on. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. What happens when you start talking to yourself this way? All of a sudden, you start to feel negative emotions, stress, irritability, right? Discontentment with your life. Now, how is that going to affect your attitude throughout the day and how you show up and engage with people? How are you showing up for your kids, your wife, the people that you're surrounding yourself with and spending your time with? The way you talk to yourself has a ripple effect upon everything that you do in life. And over time, it's going to shape your perspective. The way you see the world can be directly correlated to the way you're talking to yourself. If you're always negative, always saying, I have to do this, I have to do that, and you're talking to yourself in this self-defeating tone, what do you think your perspective is going to be like? You're not going to see opportunities. You're going to see all the things you have to do. You're not going to see how great your life is. You're going to think about all the things that aren't going your way. You're going to start to shape this perspective that is actually detrimental to who you want to be and what you want to accomplish in your life. So over time, when you consistently do this and you habitually do this, you're going to be talking to yourself negatively when you're not even realizing it. You're going to be making assumptions about the future. You're going to be creating negative scenarios in the future. All the time, your internal dialogue is just going to be negative. When you do this, it's going to compromise the actions you take. And over time, it's going to directly shape the results you get in your life. So many people don't like the job that they have. They're unhappy with their health, their fitness. They're unhappy with their relationships. It can all be traced back to the way you're talking to yourself about your life. This either sets you up for success and empowers you to make a change, or it defeats you and compromises who you could actually become and the life that you want. You have to recognize this. There's a couple things that I started to pay attention to that helped me to take back control of my life. This happened in a jail cell when I had nothing and I was looking at life in prison. But being in that cell was actually the optimal environment for me to pay attention to my self-talk and generate this awareness that has now changed my life. I started to reflect upon all of my experiences, all of my early memories, and I started to reflect upon myself. And for the first time in my life, I actually started to pay attention to the way I was talking to myself about my life. And I didn't realize prior to this, but I was actually negative. I actually had a negative internal dialogue. I would actually talk negatively to myself about myself. This was what I started changing initially to take back control of my life. And I'm going to give you an example of how this happened. I would wake up every day in a concrete box, in a cell. I couldn't leave. There was no phone. There was no family. I couldn't do what I wanted. It was just me in this cell, and I was all by myself, and I was looking at decades, if not life, in prison at that time. I was 23 years old. And every morning I'd wake up, and the first thing I'd think about is, they're going to send me to prison for the rest of my life. I'm never going to have a wife. I'm never going to have kids. I'm never going to get to live my life ever again the way I want. It's over. It's done. And when I started thinking this way, I would be overcome with anxiety, stress, fear, and it would consume me. Or I would think about the past and all the wasted opportunities that I had, all the things I didn't do, all the moments I took for granted, and I would immediately feel depressed and sad. And when these things were happening, I wasn't in control of how I felt. I wasn't in control of my actions either, because all I wanted to do was go curl up on my rack, pull the sheets over my head, try to block out the world and pretend it wasn't real. But that wasn't going to help me, right? I was stuck in this cell, and that was bad enough. But what was worse was being tortured by my own thoughts day in, day out. And this happened for a couple weeks until one day I woke up and I realized, man, I got to learn how to control these thoughts. These racing, intrusive thoughts are going to ruin me if I can't get control of them. So one morning I woke up and I just started saying things to myself that made me feel good. I started thinking about my family members and picturing their beautiful faces. I started thanking God and the universe for another day alive. I started giving thanks for my legs that still work. Some people were paralyzed, they didn't have legs. I had eyes, I could see colors. I was breathing, I was alive for a purpose, a reason. I didn't know what that reason was at the time, but I just knew that I had to find something that represented hope, something that was good, something to focus on that didn't make me feel worse than I already was. And so I started doing this every single day, and I started developing this mantra. I'd wake up and I would just go into this internal self-talk, giving thanks to the universe, thanking God for another day of life, praying out, asking for help. And when I would do this, suddenly I wasn't as consumed by racing, intrusive thoughts about my future. I wasn't as consumed about thoughts about the past. And so then that allowed me, just for the moment, to feel better. Just for the moment, I was feeling better, and I was in control over my emotional state. You see, when we're not in control over our thoughts, we definitely aren't in control of how we're feeling. And really, we're just victims of circumstance in that moment. So I started recognizing that if I could control my self-talk from the moment I opened my eyes, I was more likely to be able to control how I felt. And the internal dialogue was always positive. It was always building me up. It was always looking at what I had versus what I didn't have. Now, there was a lot of things I didn't have. There was a lot of things to be upset about. But I couldn't focus on those, and focusing on those wasn't going to help me to feel the way I wanted to feel. So every day I would just think about all that I had. I have arms that work. I have legs that work. I can read these pages in this book. I can write letters back home. People want to hear from me. I have arms to do push-ups. I'm building strength. I'm building up my conditioning. Whatever it was, I would just tell myself, that I get to do these things. That's what I started doing, and that's what you need to do. Stop saying I have to go to the store. Stop saying I have to work. Stop saying I have to get up early. You don't have to do anything. It's a choice. You get to. You get to work hard and provide for your family. You get to work out and sculpt a physique you're proud of. You get to do whatever it is that you're complaining about doing, or you don't have to do it, and stop doing it. That's the truth. We talk about our lives as if we're not in control, but we are. We are in control. And even in a situation like mine where there was a lot of things I wasn't in control of, I still had control over how I felt and how I talked to myself about my situation. And every day I would get up and I'd say, I get to work out today. I get to do these push-ups. I have arms that work. I get to do push-ups. I have this body that's abled right now. Thank you for this body, right? Or I get to write letters home. I get to communicate with people that still care about my well-being. I get to read these pages in this book and educate myself and work my mind. I get to. And that became the internal self-talk that started to shift my perspective from victim to somebody that was empowered and in control of their life. And over time, that radically transformed my perspective in the way I approach my life. Now, the second thing that I started doing, and this is something you can do right now in your life, is anything that you come across, you have to recognize that there's a potential for it to happen for you. You hear people say this all the time. Life is happening for you, not to you. And I know a lot of people say, man, that's not true. That's just some woo-woo bullshit, right? But it's about how you handle life circumstances. It's about how you talk to yourself about what you're going through and how that affects your reaction. You see, you don't always have control over what comes your way in life. We're always going to be faced with adversity and things that feel unfair, things that are outside of our control, but you do have control over how you react. How you react is everything, because you can't control the outside world, but you can control how you react to these situations. When I went to prison, imagine if I didn't get control over my mindset. Imagine how those 5 years would have been so miserable. I probably would have went back to drugs to numb out the pain. I probably would have wasted all that time and come out a worse version of myself. But I chose to react differently. And because of that, I turned those 5 years into the most productive and positive years of my life. And it changed my life, right? All throughout your life, you're gonna have a choice as to how you react to situations. When your chick cheats on you, when your kids are getting in trouble in school, when you get fired from your job, when life gets real, how do you react? That's gonna show you who you really are. Every day is an opportunity to prepare for the adversity we face, as well as the opportunities that will be presented to you. And that's another thing to go over in a different clip. But right now I'm talking to you about your perspective and how it's shaped through your self-talk. Every day, if you tell yourself, I get to, when you're doing all the things that you used to talk about begrudgingly, oh, I have to, I don't want to do this, I have to, my life's so bad, change that self-talk. Now, the next thing is whatever happens in your life, if you tell yourself, life is happening for me, this experience could be happening for me, that's going to allow you to start focusing on how can this experience benefit me? What can I learn from this? What is something here that I can, what is some experience, or what is some learning lesson I can glean from this moment that's going to serve me later on in life? Maybe this moment is happening for me, so I leave that job that I hate and do something I really love. Maybe my girl cheated on me is actually going to help me find the person I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with. Maybe my kids getting in trouble in school is a wake-up call for me to be more involved with them and talk with them about these real issues that they're going through and connect to them. There's always a learning lesson in every experience. But if you immediately assume that life's happening to you, oh, poor me, you blind yourself to the learning lesson. But if you ask yourself, okay, life is happening for me, this experience could be helping me somehow, some way. Where's the learning lesson here? How can I grow? How can I learn from this experience? You're going to find something in every situation you go through that will help you to evolve and adapt. I promise you that. And if you go through your life with this mindset that I'm describing to you right here, nothing is going to be bad. It's either going to be an opportunity or a learning lesson to grow and improve yourself somehow, some way. But you have to train your mind to always feel empowered, never defeated by the way that you're talking to yourself. Your self-talk over time is going to shape the perspective in which you see the world. And the way you see the world is going to directly affect the actions you take and over time, the results that you get. You're in control. Never forget that. It all starts with the way you're talking to yourself each and every day.